Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Hey, peace and blessings, family. Welcome to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. I am so excited because I'm joined by my dear sister, Jaime Crawford-Muhammad, and I'm excited for this conversation we going to have today. So, hey, sis, thank you for joining me.
Greetings. Thank you for having me. Bliss and love. And joyous Sunday to you.
Right on, right on. So, where are you at currently right now?
I am in North Carolina, Roxborough, which is the northeastern, kind of northeasternmost corner, upper corner of North Carolina. They say I'm in the backwoods.
What brought you to North Carolina? Just curious.
My mom is a native, and she retired this way some years ago, and I just kind of made a slow trek out here myself just to come and finish life.
Right on, right on. So when you said your mom's a native, so your mother is from North Carolina?
Yeah, she was born of her mother here in North Carolina.
Okay. What about your father?
My father, Delaware. They're Delaware peoples. His father was Delaware. His mom, the Newtons, are out of Virginia. So we're all East Coast migrates.
Right on. That makes sense. If you think about the Great Migration, how people went like up to Philly, New York, and then Chicago, then California. So how did your mom journey to meet your father? Like, did he meet her in North Carolina? Did he meet her
in Philly? They met in Philly. My dad was a Marine, Semper Fi, Aruga. And mom was a bartender. And she loved dance. You know, dance is a popular staple within our culture, and she was big on the swing. I think that was the dance that was out there, and everybody was doing the Philadelphia swing.
I know.
And so, they met in one of the members clubs.
Right on. So your parents met. How many siblings do you have?
I have. Well, my mother birthed 8. My father has 3 known outside of mom.
Right. So where are you at in that number?
I'm number 7 of mom's 8, the knee baby. And let's see, 1, 2. Well, I and a brother, actually, you know what? So I'm number 3 in dad's order.
Right on.
I have a brother that he and I both were born the same year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was in August and I came in November.
Right on. So with that being said, what was it like? So were you born in Philly or were you born somewhere else?
Yes, I was born at the port of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So what was your early years like in Philadelphia? How long were you?
You know, I'm a late 60s baby. So I was born in the power movement. So we had Panthers, we had Black Muslim, and everything was reflected in our community. They'd walk down the street singing The Greatest Love of All.
I
by
love
George Benson. The Muslim brothers would come through and teach us lessons in Arabic, salamu alaikum, alaikum salam, things of that nature, how to defend ourselves. We had a chant. I don't 100% remember it to recite it at this moment, but there was a chant that we sing, and every now and again it pops into my head. We used to do it with our jump rope, and just in the neighborhood song, umgawa, black tis the power. And then the Panthers, of course, also had to do with that. They had the breakfast programs. We learned to swim through one of their programs. They had a thing at the YMCA that we were able to go and join. And I was one of those 6-year-old kids in there learning how to swim through that program. We had camp programs, storytellers. Oh my gosh, the storytellers. Sister, like the fabric you're wearing on your head. This
Uh-huh.
woman would come, and I had to ask my mom how I became involved, but I was one of the kids who went to this park where this woman read her Tales of Anansi from a beautiful piece of African cloth.
Wow.
And yeah. So that was my first poetry, storytelling experience with someone telling it live. The first play of for color girls who considered suicide. I remember I want my stuff back. I was blessed as a child to even encounter that in Philly. So Philly was a very rich cultural, I'd say, planting ground or seeding ground.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then California.
So how long were you in Philly before you went to Cali?
I had celebrated my 8th birthday before we got on the bus and drove to California. Well, rode to California.
Wow. Wow. So before we get to Cali, you gave us some unique history right there. Because I think sometimes in our culture these days, sometimes we don't always value the past and what kind of things we learned in the past. Like you talked about the Panthers being an influence, the things because what I always remember about Philly, because I'm originally from North Philly, I just remember like the drill team and like the people, your whole block took care of you. If my mom was at work and we got home from school, Miss Jenny knew we was going to be in that house. We, don't leave them that stoop. I remember community.
Yes.
Like you just weren't alone. Like you could talk. Other people could talk to you and tell you, "Hey, what you doing?" Like, "Hey, what's going
Correct
on?"
you too.
Yeah.
I remember if you were down the street, I was one of those bad kids. If you say something mouthy to Miss Janice down the street, Miss Janice whooped your butt and took you home to your mama and told your mama what you did. And then mama whooped your butt. She didn't whoop Miss Janice for whooping you. She whooped
Right.
your butt for having Miss Janice have to whoop you and bring you home to her.
Do you think some of that was part of maybe your Southern culture? So I know my
The
mom was
village.
from
That
Virginia,
was the village.
my dad's people from South Carolina. So
Yes, that was the village. I got bit by a dog. My mom was at work. She worked days and nights. She worked the bar at night so she could party and still make money for the household. And she worked the doctor's office during the day. So during the day, I got bit by a dog. And I remember it was the Cannons. Respect to y'all if any of you ever, tap into this video. The Cannons. Miss Cannon saw me get bit by that dog, grabbed me up, threw me in the car, and rushed me to the hospital. This is village. Had me taken care of, treated, brought me back. Another lady, and I don't recall her name, but she was on our same street. She would have me, she was like, make her come down here every day so I could put this butter on her to keep her from scarring. It was so wonderful, just, how they work together. When my eldest sister, who was supposed to be the sitter of us, but she she was a teenager. So she'd get gone and she'd get somebody from the neighborhood to watch over us. Well, when she would do that, then some of the other elder women would have, come on in here, baby, sit down. And we'd watch Channel 3. You remember Channel 3?
yeah.
I think that was what Bob Hope with The Price is Right and all that.
Yep.
Sit and watch Channel 3, until mom came home or until my sister showed back up, then they'd let me back up the street,
So
nighttime playing, remember opening fire hydrants, all that was community. Somebody would come through with a wrench and then we cooling off in the fire
until the
hydrant.
city come and cut it off.
Fire department come and nobody knows who turned it on,
Nobody.
So that
I
taught
remember
about
block
no
captains.
snitching.
I remember the block captain. I remember
man.
we had a block captain.
Yes, yeah, and that was basically who used to come open up the fire hydrant.
Right on.
And then the block parties,
Go.
those things we missed when we got to Cal. That wasn't there. They didn't have the block parties. Maybe Oakland though, but we didn't come to Oakland. So we didn't see all of that aspect of things. But that was the whole community come together. The children are playing. There's games for us and music and food, and everybody knows what's going on with everybody. And they had a wonderful, wonderful support system. I remember that much as a child.
Wow. So when you came to California, what part of California did you come to, and what was that like for you?
We came to the borderline of Hayward and San Lorenzo. Hayward and San Lorenzo.
Okay.
Um, and but near John F. Kennedy Park. I remember the park because we could walk around our corner and up the street a bit, and we'd end up at JFK Park. That was a culture shock. We went from all black Philly, because Philly was hecka segregated. You didn't even know you was segregated. You just
That's
was.
real talk.
But in Cali, all of a sudden, we were the token Negroes. We were the only 3 black children enrolled in this all-white school. There was all white and Latino. There were some Latino people there, but mostly white, and we were the only black kids in the community. We heard the name Ku Klux Klan. This is a funny thing because we had never learned this in Philly. Okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't know about it in Cali, but we heard the name Ku Klux Klan and we thought, oh, that sounds really cool. We were into the Bruce Lee karate thing. And so the kids played football. And my brothers and his friends became the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow.
The name of their football team was the Ku Klux Klan, girl. My dad came home and he heard about that. They had a little song, Ku Klux Klan. That was what we cheer sang.
Right.
And my dad heard us singing that, and he grabbed us and took us in the house and made us sit down and get our first Black history lesson.
Wow.
Now, we were 8, 9, and 10 years old. So as kids, we're thinking, now we done sang this song. They're gonna come get us.
Oh.
Oh man. And we would be sleeping, I just scared in our beds, like they're gonna come in the window and get us. We would call it the Ku Klux Klan.
That was awesome for your dad to do that, though, because nowadays kids will be talking about racism, whatever, but then we don't stop and get them the history.
Yeah.
So that was your dad was a G for that.
Yeah, and it was our first really understanding what Martin Luther King was about. Though we knew about him in Philly, we were taught about him. Again, we were in all black Philly, and we didn't know about the racism as children. That's another thing they did different that they don't do today. Children were children. And they stayed in children's business. They did not mind grown folks' business. They were not there for the adult conversations. So all we had was a little innocent children's world. We didn't know anything about hate or color. It was an adventure to see a person who had skin different. Like, I was fascinated with when I would touch them, the imprint that my finger was like, wow, you're different, but it wasn't a hate thing.
Right.
We weren't taught that. And so coming into California and learning this part of things and what the civil rights really was about, was like, wow, they had so much. Why do they hate us so much? What is this all about? And we still did not become the hate that hate produced at that time.
Right on.
That took a few years later.
Right. So what was your teenage years like?
Whew. Richmond, California. Now I have a very colored life, Sister Rolanda, so I can't go everything. But for your program and what you do, I want to speak to. Teenage adolescence kicked in. I wanted to be everything I could be and hurry up and be grown, and knew I was cute, to some people, and so I wore that like a badge to get me passes into different areas of trouble. Really, not knowing I was getting in trouble. It was just fun to me, as a kid. I didn't really understand. So I got into like the pot society, people that were starting to sell drugs things. And I went, hey, the money. I worked a job, Discount Mart, Richmond, California, El Cerrito. I worked there. My first job, I started at 13. And by 16, with the adolescence, this guy came in the store and he went to pay for his purchase. He had a big fat wad of money in his hand. And I'm like getting $100 a week, on my little job. I'm like, how'd you get all that money? So I became drawn to the money. How'd you get all that? We could use that money. We were not a well-to-do family, and that would help our family immensely. So, and even me to have the things that other kids I saw have, I couldn't have those things. So this was an opportunity. How do I get that money? And it was a hustle, all hustle. And so I became for a little while, and got into a little trouble. But had some wonderful experiences. The ancestors, God, Allah, was very merciful over my life, to put a covering on me, because many girls who did half the things I did, or even just a small portion, didn't make it through to even be here today and talk about it. But yeah, so I got wild, and I thought, mom knows nothing. Let me, this is a new culture. Let me find my way and blaze my trail and become my me. In the midst of that, there was, a date rape occurrence, or even just a random guy snatched me off the street. But I was out there being fast, so I didn't tell. I didn't tell. But he snatched me. I luckily had mace. I sprayed his butt with mace, but I still had the encounter. But I got away. Another guy took me and raped me, literally. Being fast, mama said don't go, and I went anyway, and that's what happened. So I didn't tell, because I felt it was my fault. I took my little hot ass out there, excuse the expression, but I took myself out there, and that's what ended up being the result. But I prayed even that night when that guy was doing what he was doing, because he was going to kill me if I didn't open my legs to him. And I remember there was this couple, and it was like I was at the Richmond Marina, and it was raining, kind of like it is drizzly today. And I went to there was a couple parked there, and I guess they were getting it on. And I went to the car, and I'm like, hey, can you help me? Just get me to the road, please. This man trying to rape me. This is my chance to get away from him. But they were like, oh no, our cars broke down. I'm like, that's messed up. But all right. So I just kept walking through this dark wherever I was. And then the guy pulled back up and grabbed me and dragged me. And he's like, you would die rather than give me some leg. And I'm like, yeah, this is my body, But I got to the edge of the cliff, and I was scared to go over the edge of the cliff. So I said, well, you want some dead stuff? I'll give you my dead stuff.
Wow.
So that was a teenage experience that changed my view of men. It made me become a hardened, I guess, so to speak. My friends admire me for my strength, because I wasn't just misled by men anymore. A guy couldn't just come say, oh, hey, cutie to me. Nah, nigga. Excuse me. But it was worse. We ain't just going for the okie doke just because you say
Right
I'm
on.
cute. Cost me a lot of things in my life. So cute ain't what I want to hear right now. What you got going? Well, how can I help you, or you help me? And that's how I moved in life, and probably protected me later, from having that experience and living through it. My mother, though, seeing me out there doing the dangerous things I got caught up. I went to juvenile hall. I spent a little time in Lassen and met a bunch of other children, which I also learned from, their plight and their experiences. And like a young girl, her mother pimped her out,
Wow.
for, yeah. So I'm thinking, my stuff was her, like, my mama loved me.
Right.
let me try to get straight. And so anyway, then a big event happened where the whole family got involved, and almost half my community, and all because of me. And my mother's like, you got to make a decision. You either gonna stay here, or you're going to your daddy, or you going to your uncles in the South. And so I knew my uncles in the South were kind of rowdy, so I figured they'll understand me coming from a rowdy state to a calmer, trying to get my life together, more than my dad, who was so military and strict. I figured he squeezed too hard, and I'd pop out like a grape and bounce over into LA, because he was up in Apple Valley, Cal. So I was like, for my life's sake, I'm going to choose the South. So I chose the South. My mama sent me back to North Carolina to experience this life in 1985.
Wow. So, that's real significant. When you were talking, you pointed out some key things that happened in your life as a teenager, and how that impacted your life. And usually when I'm talking with young people, they always wonder what happened to older people, but we don't, some of us don't share.
Yes.
We do these little like but we won't necessarily talk about the
Tell it.
experiences, which are
Yes.
really important for young people, so they can see that, first of all, that you were young once. And
Yeah.
so some of the stuff they doing, we probably did already. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like, yeah, but it just also makes you look that much more human. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
And sometimes young people need to see that, because a lot of our girls go through stuff and we just act like that term being fast. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people heard that term. With your
Yeah.
fast
Oh,
tail,
so
with your fast
fast.
tail. They say fast tail. I'm like, dang, tail?
Out here
Yeah.
in North Carolina, it was flossy. That meant fast. I think
Flossy?
that's what you meant when you call it flossy, May.
That's the flossy. So when you
With your
got back to the
fast self.
uh, oh, you breaking up a little bit.
Oh, going to okay. I was trying to go out towards the house. Yeah, I stepped away from the area. Getting in the country
Okay.
backwoods. I was trying to go out there, but that's why I have to
Oh,
stick
that's
here.
so
Go
beautiful.
ahead.
So beautiful. So when
Yes,
you got
that's
to
my
North
garden
Carolina,
back there.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. How many acres are you on?
3.5.
That's beautiful.
3.5.
Absolutely beautiful. Wow, look at that scenery. That's just so pretty. Wow.
That building is about 100 years old.
Wow. That's
The house
beautiful.
part of the house is 100. The front part of it is 100 years, and then the other one's about 40, 50.
Wow. So when you got to North Carolina, what was different for you? How did that impact your life going to
Oh,
North Carolina?
it's like going from uh, what is that? Dang, I was trying to think of the freeway out there. 80. Going from the 880 to B Street.
Oh,
It's a total lane change. Everything in the city is go, 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 zoom, 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 and you got all kinds of things to get into. But here you come to this. You
mm.
come to dark at when it's dark, you're eating dinner. You may watch Wheel of Fortune or something like that, and then you're going to bed. And you getting up in the morning to walk down a long road to go catch your bus to go to school. It was a total shock. My uncle had chickens, pigs, and
Uh-oh.
and
You breaking up again. You said your uncle has chickens and you broke up.
vegetables. Coming back and coming back.
Okay.
Trying to walk y'all out there, man. It's so beautiful.
I
But
know.
yeah, uh,
Okay, hello, you broke up again. We can't hear you.
all in. Tell me when I'm in. Testing,
Okay, hold
testing,
on. Okay.
testing,
I can hear
testing.
you, but I just can't,
I'm
you're
back.
frozen. Yeah, but you're frozen. Yeah, I
Okay,
can hear you, but your
let me
picture's
come back over
frozen.
here.
Okay.
Okay, let me know when I'm back. I'm coming back
Okay.
closer to the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Let's see.
Is
Your
that better?
picture's just
Are
frozen.
we
Yeah,
back?
I can hear you well, but your picture's just frozen. That's all.
Okay, let's
But
do
you're saying,
this.
okay, let's try it again. Okay, nope, your picture's still there.
Still frozen? That
Yep.
means we have to go all the way inside. Hold on. We got to go to the system.
No worries. No worries. But I
It,
can hear you
the,
perfectly.
oh, good. Well, that was the benefit of the country. Just what we're
Yeah.
experiencing even right now with the reception, because I was in a very rural area. So I was cut off from the hustle bustle of the city and then subjected to the quietness, the solitude, mm, the roots of the country. And that saved my life. It made me see things. I was able to weigh out all the silly girl things that I did with my friends. Balance out. See the destruction that had come, called crack cocaine, that had hit the streets at that time, that made half of this stuff wild. Why that guy had that wad of money. Um, how where food really came from, and what
Mm.
it really tasted like
Oh.
fresh on the farm. I got to draw water from the well like the elders and ancestors used to wash my body wash the dishes. I had to make a fire in a wood burning stove to be warm in the winter, and heat my water to wash my body and wash the dishes and cook.
That's
So
beautiful.
it was a life-saving, eye-opening, culture enhancing experience for me, and very humbling. If I did not use that term yet, humbling, very humbling. Although I still was like the lady on Green Acres. I love the South. I mean, I love the city. I wanted to get back to the city so bad because the country didn't have all that the city had to offer. The nightlife, the day life, the Lake Merritts, it wasn't here like that.
Wow.
Although, being in North Carolina, that was I came here at 16 going on 17. At 18, I was in my own apartment in Durham, North Carolina. And guess what? The rent was like $200 a month. Where they do
Wow.
that
Oh, wow.
at? But I could just hop on the freeway 4 hours. I'm in DC. I'm out at the waterfront at the monument, hanging out, doing the live jazz festivals in June. So it was a different thing. College was big here. And that was something. Most of the kids who graduated high school here had more a greater chance of entering university as we did in California. I remember Cali, we were, talking about our grades and whether we could get into Cal Berkeley, the university there, but it was
Mm,
easy to get into community college there. Here, it was easy for them to go into the historically Black colleges that are down here, or even the traditionals, the Duke University or the UNC. All they needed was a certain GPA. And so that was awesome, to see in my peer group or my relatives that are abundant here. Also the ability to go up and down the East Coast and, get that whole East Coast, but, DC was go-go culture. Philly
mhm.
was hip hop, so it's like, it's just right up the road.
Hello.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did you become a mother?
I, mm, I'm not a mother,
Okay.
but I am an auntie.
Right on. Right
I
on.
am an auntie. I became an auntie. Truthfully, my first niece was born when I think I'm 5 years older than Angel. She was born in 76, so actually almost 10 years older than her. Angel was the firstborn child, but I was not a nurturer, of course, to her. I was just a little girl. I used to have to rock the cradle and change the diaper every now and again, but I was just a kid. When I first took over guiding, I was 13 years old. My eldest sister came and she had two younger children with her. So, I went into teaching them like, alphabet, colors, shapes, diet, getting them to eat stuff that she said they wouldn't, that was healthy for them, and babysitting, braiding hair, correcting, getting the nap cycles going, and that kind of thing, behavior. So then, I was 14, 15. So combined in with this fast girl life, was the home life, and that part of the village that still existed with us.
So was there any particular reason why you never became a mom? Because I get that. I don't have any birth children, but I have like godchildren and stuff like that. People who think
Yeah,
of my
yeah,
child.
that's my boat. Godchildren, definitely, and again, born in the blood. Um, I was molested at 3 when
Mm-hmm.
I was just a small baby, and it took some meditation to get to that, because dealing with your trauma centers and
Mm-hmm.
trauma. I went on a vision quest and I saw what happened to me.
Wow.
But I don't know if that early thing that happened to me altered my ability. I've been told by an ancestral elder, though, that I will not to have children. And that could be so, because many times the things that I experienced, I thought, babies are beautiful and they're tender and precious and they smell so good, but this world is effed up, and I really wouldn't want to subject another life to it. I wouldn't want a child to have to find their way as I did. it didn't mean that I didn't like children. I just thought it was selfish of me to bring one into this wicked world. And so the elder told me that thought right there stopped me from bearing children.
Mm.
But again, science, I don't know if the manipulation of my little body affected my elder body, my growing body or my developing body. When I started my cycle, it was horrible. I had bad dysmenorrhea. I mean, I'd pass out, or faint. I should say faint. It was very painful, and this is without having sex of my, willingly. When I willingly gave my body up, I was 16 years old, but I was already menstruating at 13. And I just had really bad periods. I used to think I miscarried every month without having sex, not understanding the body, and what was going on or why it hurt so bad. And, a boy might have kissed me and I thought he made me pregnant. And so the baby was coming out. Just silly stuff, when I was 23, I was consulting. I had a Black doctor from New York. I don't remember his name, but bless him still. And I was discussing with him, this monthly thing and how the pain would come and what could we do? He said, start focusing on the pain, where it is, where it's coming from, and then we'll take a look and see. And so we looked in, and there was a tumor of sort. There was a growth. That's what he said. There was a growth found inside it looked like it was in my womb area, and it was pressing against my uterus. And so they recommended that I then have removal of that cyst, or they thought it was endometriosis. They thought it was endometriosis from that. And so they went in to address it and found it was in fact just a lipoma is the word they use, but it's a mass of tissue that was just sitting behind my reproductive organs by itself. Yeah, which could have been the crayons we ate as kids. I don't know what it was. But there was a massive tissue there that was not cancerous. It had grown to the size of a tangerine by the time we decided to cut it out. Greetings, Roberta. And when they extracted it, when they went in to do the extraction, they saw it was not even involved with my reproductive organs, but it was behind the left organ and had crushed it. And the right organ or ovary had not flowered. So the doctor, whatever that meant, mind you, this is a 23-year-old who had no real understanding of her body and my womb. I had not that Queen of Fuga womb knowledge,
Right.
And so he was telling me it hadn't flowered. He opened it up, and there was a 99% chance of me ever conceiving following that episode.
Well, how did you feel hearing that as a 23-year-old?
This was the cold part, because I'm a woman. I've always been the tough girl. I'm gonna stand up. I am a woman, mama, civilization. Okay, so they had me on a maternity ward when he came in and told me that I had a 99.1% chance of bearing children. And I laid there for 3 days in my bed and listened to women giving birth.
Oh, wow.
The cries of the babies, the cries of the mamas pushing them out, and had to make peace with the fact that I would never be that. I thought that was torturous.
Yeah.
And they didn't, because it was an OBGYN episode, so they probably thought it suitable to still have me there. But after that, it was just more trauma, just add more trauma to the drama. But I had a boyfriend at the time, our guy I was dating. He wasn't really a boy, right? We were young adults at the time, but we call him. And I pushed him away. Go have your children, because you can't have kids. I can't give you none, and I don't want to deal with the fact that you come and telling me somebody else is pregnant. So bye. Yeah, I just pushed him away, and I went through a little period of self-destruction, to a degree within myself, not loving myself, feeling half of a woman, less of a woman. So that big girl, that big tough chick, that she was down, knocked down, and in question, I'm a woman, but I'm not fruitful, you know. But
Mm,
then someone gave me Isaiah 53.
mm.
Isaiah 53. I said, okay, so out of many, one, out of one, many. Here I am. And I started to love and heal from that, you know, slowly, slowly. It wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't a 1 year thing. It took years. It took me to meet other sisters. I used to have a sister circle on Fridays where the many sisters that I met from different cultures I'd invite to come and eat, and we'd cook our different foods from our respective regions and share our stories. And it was those sister circles that helped to see I blame and to love myself anyway.
Hmm. So, what kind of work do you do around the womb and the wellness of the womb?
With myself.
Yeah, and just with others, because you're just listening to you, your story is just very inspiring, but it's also very affirming at the same time. Because we never, some of us don't get to hear the ups and downs of what that journey is like. Because I don't have any children myself, so we don't even talk about that in our culture. You know what I mean? As much.
Yeah, we don't. And dang, I had a word. It was called in Jamaica. The word for a type of woman that did not bear seed. It escaped me, but I called myself that for years. You know,
What is it called again? I didn't catch it.
it's not coming to me. If
Okay.
someone in the audience know when she's fruitless, it's I forget. It's not. Maybe it's not supposed to be here today. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
No
Uh,
worries. I thought I missed it.
but reference for her a fruitless woman, and other than barren, she's called something else. I forget. So anyway, um, what I do is with what I did in California. I started a Rebirth and Rise program, but any woman that I encountered through Sacred Woman, I've got to give Queen Afua, Sister Queen Afua, props, my sister, because reading her Sacred Woman brought me into myself. It helped me understand the ailments of my sisters and myself. The fibroids, the dysmenorrhea that I went through, all had to do with diet, had to do with self-care. And so, incorporating candles and through my writing, my spoken word, I helped myself and I helped others. Um, I started a group, Rebirth and Rise, that was for the young women to try and teach them. Yeah, yes. And that was in Sacramento at the Urban League with the hope of getting a 9-month to rebirth program going for our young women who did not have rites of passage, like myself, to learn more about who they are and identify with positive images of ourselves in culture, in society, in politics, because Condoleezza was in office back then when I started that program. And the sister was in Alabama speaking 11 languages, so I wanted to just turn it into that to empower our sisters who will be mothers of men and of girls, that they can learn to love themselves, that they can learn to be self-sufficient for themselves and not make the same mistake I did as a young girl, getting out there fascinated with the things that would destroy me, you know or not build village. So here, the same. I'm really remote in North Carolina, more to myself, but anyone I encounter, that's what we build on. If it's something I can help with, if it's something I can encourage them in, then that's what I do. I share my 3 cents for what it's worth. You'd be amazed at how many of us are not taught how valuable our breasts are in feeding our babies from our own breasts, that we'll give it up. And I've been resented from teaching this modern culture children what the value of our breasts are, because they want to go to the Similac or whatever other formula rather than doing what's been denaturalized for us.
Mm, mm.
But I do it. I still encourage it. Everything natural as best as you can.
How did you start working to do organic, like art and farming and working with metals, and how did all of that come about?
um, we're just a gifted people. We just don't know how to tap into our gifts. I'm a first, for anyone listening, we are gifted and we just don't know how to tap into our gifts. Because we don't know something, we'll stay away from it rather than do the research or find out or try. And sometimes you learn so much more about yourself when you try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So gemstones have always been a part, from Mother Queen of Four again, with the nine sacred uh windows, you know what I'm saying? Nine sacred altars, nine sacred chapters that you go through, 9 months again to rebirth. We always have had gemstones, and people we encounter through our walk, especially in California, Berkeley, Asheville,
Mm-hmm.
it you're gonna run into the gemstones, and somebody might just come up to you and just put one in your hand, or you might fall at a booth, and the stone just stands out to you. And I had no real understanding, but it stood out to me, so it meant I needed to have it. So I possessed that stone. Or our brothers that came from Africa, or sisters, would gift us with beautiful pieces that they brought from there. And I was an African imports and arts dealer at one time in the
Oh
Bay
wow.
too. I wore too many hats. That's why I say, which one you want to talk
That's
about?
beautiful though.
But so through that, I was exposed to more beads and more culture, learning about the waist beads and so on. Uh, with COVID-19 and the whole 5G rollout concept, I wanted something that we could do to protect ourselves from the electromagnetic frequencies that are going to come from the 5G era. And so I reached out to a brethren friend of mine who does make the organ pieces, who I would just go to if I wanted something organ. Whenever he came for a show, I'd go see him and support in some way. So I ordered some stuff from him, and uh, I don't know, maybe he was overwhelmed with the orders or whatever. But the piece I got, it wasn't in its best. It wasn't his best form, but it was enough for it was for me to be not in its best form, so that I could look at it and say, I can do this. I'm paying all this money for this, and I can do this myself. So I
Mm.
began with Google to look up, Google and YouTube, look up how to make orgonite. What is it? What is it first, to understand it, and then how it's made. And then I was introduced to Wilhelm and what he did back in, with the product of organ. He was the first person who developed it, and so people call it orgonite to not disrespect his organ term or whatever. And I learned the steps. Then I started ordering the materials. And then I started working with the materials and making different pieces. And it's like, wow, this is neat. And then just still growing and learning more. Same with the jewelry. I am so thrilled to be learning this stuff, man. So what I did with this, the same thing. Look it up. Like, okay, what's some ways that I can work with the copper? I had a customer that asked me for a handmade copper necklace that went with my resin piece, that I had mastered the resin work to a degree. I can still grow,
Mm.
but I had mastered that enough to satisfy him that he wanted me to make him a copper necklace and a copper ring. And I'm like, I didn't say no, even though I had never done it. I was like, that's a little bit of money, right? I'll do something strange for a little bit of change in a righteous way. So I looked it up, and I had the material already. So I just started following the examples, and voila, there she was. So it's like, okay, wow, I could do this. I did that. Look back. And so that's what I tell anybody, with anything. Don't say you can't, even if you can't. Try it first.
Right on.
Try it a couple of times. Fail a couple of times. Then maybe by the 10th time you haven't gotten it down to something, you can say, okay, well, that's just not for me. But at least you tried. If you just look at something and say, it's impossible. Can you see that
Yeah,
piece?
that's pretty.
Yeah, I did that.
That is so pretty.
So I could look at that and say, how you do that? Or I could
That's
look at
pretty.
that and say, let me see how I can do that. So I did the let me see how I can do that. And I followed the steps, and you just keep working at your craft. That's all.
Wow. Your spiritual beliefs. What's been your spiritual journey?
Mm, I'm an old soul first. I'm an old soul that even I don't know her. Still, I don't know all of her. My mom is Baptist. My daddy was Catholic. I mostly lived with mom and grew up in the Baptist church. I like the Psalms.
as a child. They were songs of David that talked about trial and tribulation and deliverance. Gave praises to the Most High. Have taught me how to say thank you, Lord, for what you've done for me. Um, but there's an old soul here. So I got into some real when I told you about Mama told me I had to go to North Carolina to my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
A sister that was a sister of a friend. She was in studies at UC Berkeley, and I was sent there to hide out, well, to be placed safely away from the drama that my life had brought upon the village. And while there, she said, "Get in the mirror and look at yourself, because what you're doing is not who you are."
Mm.
So I got in the mirror and I sat looking. And the more I looked, the deeper I went, and I got scared. I saw something look back at me that I didn't know who that was. So in the deep, deep, deep side of myself, I am an old ancestral soul spiritually. But now I'm trying to figure out from street life, how do we how did we get to this point as brown people, as copper colored people, as black people? How did we get to this point? I can't walk down the street and call Susie Q a B without me and her throwing blows. So
Mm.
how in the world did a whole nation of people become servitude to a whole other nation of people? Was my question. And as I began to ask that question, answers began to come to me. And that was Answer El Muhammad, so-called Cato. First one, he used to come over and get weed from me. And he'd sit there and tell me about Islam. But I was already hearing Dr. Bay on the TV, with the whole Rodney King thing. It was Dr. Khalid Muhammad with his
Mm-hmm.
radicals. I was already hearing these things. I was chasing a man, girl, not chasing him like I was getting ready to check his lying butt, right? Me and call my girlfriend, like, girl, let me borrow your car because he can't know who I am. I followed this guy to a Farrakhan conference. When I got there, I'm with a whole nother intent now, right? I'm a whole nother intent in my head, fight or flight thing. But when I got there and I saw all these people beautifully dressed, I'm like, what in the world is this? So then me and my girlfriend were like, well, let's go check this out. We forgot all about the guy now. We're going to see what this was about. And I paid and I went in there and I stood up and listened to Brother Minister Farrakhan. It was on couples and relationships, the lecture in Oakland. And I'm like, wow, this is some deep I never heard. Look, mind you, I was exposed to the Black Muslims, but we got all kind of Muslims, right?
Right.
And so in Philly, I was exposed to Black Muslims, but since that 6 and 7-year-old exposure, here I am at 21, 22, being exposed to Nation of Islam, to Answer El Muhammad, and this whole other thing. And so I like that. Radical. They was all about us growing and rising above. And yeah, so I tapped into Islam, and I'm still tapped in to Islam, understanding that it is those who submit to the will of the Most High. We're all Muslims. I may not adhere to every tenet of the faith because some of it I didn't necessarily agree with, but I don't knock it for the next person. Like I didn't Mister's wife number 1, 2, 4, and 59. But if that's what another sister want
That's
to
what
do,
they
go
hit
right,
to.
yeah, go right ahead, and I'm gonna support you 100% because it's still village, right? I just don't want it for
Mm-hmm.
myself. So okay, full steam ahead. Um, I'd say I'm still with that, but I am like also into just everything because with Islam you learn all knowledge is related, be it distant or close. So leave nothing unturned. So I tapped into Santeria. I started to learn about the Orishas and our African ancestral gods and goddesses and personalities, which are all characteristics, or Ma'at, the balance, the Egyptian philosophy, or Kemetic, faith. I just met some people from every walk of life after asking those questions. And I turned nothing down. And sometimes not even my collar, just turn nothing down. Study everything. Study everything to become a divine knower of as much as I can in this lifetime. Who knows who we encounter? So I might meet somebody from Buddhism. I can do a Nam Yam Reikyo with them too, and I'm not gonna be mad about it. And though they may get mad if I say Allahu Akbar, I'm not mad about them Nam Yam Re. Hinduism, I learned a little bit about Shiva, the karma goddess, and that she really wasn't a bitch, she is just karma visiting is.
Right on.
So I'm a spiritual soul, old soul. Before there was any name and titles to religion, I am.
Right on, sis. Right on.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now, with all of that rolled up into one, how does that reside in your womb?
That resides very well. I recently, our mother, has woken me to say, look back at the Bible, because that's where I started you at. And there is wisdom there. Do not discard our wisdom, no matter where it comes from.
Right on.
Also, this country that we're in, is founded on the principles of this book. So when you fight with them, and you will fight with them with their words, because they put their hands on the Bible. So you must know this Bible. So I said, okay, mother, I'm tapping in.
Right on. Right on.
Yes.
Right on. Wow. I mean, you do so many things. I mean, like, but all of it is tied into each other. You know what I mean? All of it is tied into each other. I always say that even with religion, what really screws it up is the interpretation.
Right.
Because there are really words on the page, and depends on how we interpret it or translate it. It can be used as a tool to your enslavement or a map to your liberation. It just depends on how you use it.
That's right. And it's the same with how we talk.
Yep.
Someone may be offended by the tonality or frequency of your voice, though you may be speaking everything you're saying with love and not offense. Someone else may receive it with damning and dissension and offense.
Right.
It's all subject to interpretation, and it's where you're at in your mind space, really, too. If your mind space isn't in the right place, then you're not going to receive according to righteousness or right and justness. So you got to get your mind right first, or check yourself. Like sometimes I say something to me and I might be in my feelings because of what they said. Then I have to ask myself, in thinking 5 times, Islam, and thinking 5 times about what was said, what was it? What did not sit well with you, and why didn't it sit well? Why did that person irritate you, and what was it that was irritating? That's your womb. That's womb work too, because our emotions come from the womb. That's our center. So okay, what is it that didn't resonate? And then it might be because if you throw a stone in the dark and it hits somebody, they're gonna holler out. I throw a stone out there, it hits you, ouch.
That's
So
real
then
talk.
you're on with the ouch, fight or flight, right? Instead of receiving. And then later on, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, when the lesson is learned, you can look back at that and say, oh, it really wasn't meant that way.
That's real talk.
Hopefully it won't take us that long in some cases, because we really need to get to the healing.
That's always my prayer, that women do the work on their wounds so that future generations can go on to something else now.
Yes.
I mean, like, it's kind of like my mother, blessed in memory, she did a lot of cleaning of people's houses and sacrificed a lot. So that would not be my journey.
Yeah.
Because now I have to go on and do something else. And I hope that's what I'm doing.
Break the mold. Do better. Do better than me. Do better than me. Don't do better than me. Take this gardening I'm doing right now and multiply it, family.
Right on.
Feed our whole village off our own land if we know how to use it.
Right
and guess what? I wasn't a farmer. I looked it up. I did the research. I
Right on.
tried error. I tried it. It didn't work. I still kept trying. This year was the third year I planted beets. This was the first year I got them.
So
But
right
I still
on.
like, okay, well, let me try it this way. Well, let me mix this soil. Let me see what's gonna work. And this year I got some beautiful beets. Finally. Finally.
Right on. Right
And
on.
that's everything. I hope that the children see what I'm doing and magnify it. I hope that before I'm gone. Let me tell you what my plan is, y'all.
Okay.
This right here, I want to be a place of refuge. I want to put other structures that elders, like a 4-bedroom house or a 5-bedroom house. And I do have the hookup. I'm working on that part to get that part. But to put a 4 or 5-bedroom house where we can put our elders who need help in a way, but still can live on their own, that they can live in that home. We feed them off the land, even have like a healing retreat, something to that effect, to use this land and get us in touch. Children having struggles, it could even be that children having struggles, they need to get their hands in the soil and see how when you plant a seed in the ground and work at it, you can bring it up to fruition. You know what I'm saying? Or how you can plant a seed in the ground and work at it and it doesn't fruit. That teaches life. That's the life cycle. That's what my aspiration is, to create a village atmosphere where we help our own, we eat from our own, and we cultivate each other in
Right
positive
on.
ways.
Right on. Someone has a comment in here I want to share before we get out of here.
Yes,
Which
yes,
right on.
yes, yes. But as we know and grow better, we teach better. That's right. That's
Right
right,
on.
Sister
Right
Bailey.
on.
That's right.
Right on. So that just makes more sense. So in closing, any closing remarks you want to leave us with? This has been an awesome conversation. I love conversations, period. I spend a lot of time listening to people's conversations. I really do.
I have enjoyed speaking with you, Sister Rolanda, and I want to say to you, thank you with divine and universal gratitude for your inclination to move and act in society in all our best interests and highest good. I want to thank you, laud you, and lift you up continually, in what you're doing. Thank you. And thank you for this space and sharing your divine energy with me.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, sister, for joining me. So hold on a minute. Let me just wind this down because I have to move in a time limit because I want to lift this up to Instagram, but I have a certain time frame. So give me just a minute. I'm up here doing the engineering myself today. But thank y'all so much for tuning in to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. I'll be back with y'all next week. And until such time, stay in the light, family. Stay in the light. See you next week. Hold on.
Artlist.io.